My son and I are beginning a fancy life in another country with his $3 million. His mother warned, "If you two split up, you won't have enough money." Then she added, "If you want our new address, you'll have to beg and lick my shoes." I was confused and asked, "What? What are you saying? What do you mean?" I had no idea they were planning to move abroad or saving up so much money. She explained, "I meant my son inherited $3 million. We're going to live a wealthy life overseas, just the two of us. Why would my husband leave the country? And why are you talking about $3 million? Why are you being so secretive?" Well, if you're really curious, get down on your knees and beg while licking my shoes, and I might just tell you. Why are you being so rude? Where is my husband? We're quite comfortable here. We're living it up with my son's $3 million. So you're not needed anymore. I was shocked by what my mother-in-law said. How could my husband suddenly have $3 million and be living a luxurious life abroad? And the way she talked, as if I didn't belong. I felt a mix of anger and worry, but I knew I needed to stay calm and figure things out. How did my husband get all that money? And could it be connected to? I work as a manager at a big tech company. My husband and I met there, and I was attracted to his upbeat personality, which led to us getting married. His parents welcomed me warmly at first. Later, we had a daughter who's now 14. I grew up poor with difficult parents. Having faced many challenges, I was determined to love and care for my daughter deeply, while also managing work and the household. Then, one day, my husband had to move to Texas for a project. "It's going to be tough being alone with our daughter," I said. "Yeah, balancing work, chores, and taking care of her will be hard." "Maybe we should ask my mom to come and help," my husband suggested. "That could be a relief," I agreed. So I reluctantly agreed to let my mother-in-law move in with us. "Mommy, when will Daddy come back?" my daughter asked. "It looks like he'll be in Texas for a while, but don't worry. Gran was coming to stay with us," I reassured her. And so, my mother-in-law came to live with us. Little did I know, this decision would turn out to be the biggest mistake of my life. "You're working late again today, huh? Women who neglect their families." I'd hear biting remarks from her when I came home from work. "I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter." I'd argue back, but she was never satisfied. "When I was young, family was everything. I never even thought about working outside," she'd say. Then one day when my daughter did well in school, she said, "It's all thanks to me. What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around." Even though my mother-in-law only helped with easy homework, I was the one teaching my daughter most subjects. And if I made a small mistake with cooking, she'd jump on me, saying, "How did you and my son even survive before with such poor cooking skills?" "I'm doing my best, and everyone has their own way of doing things," I'd snap back. My patience was running out. "She doesn't do her chores," she complained to my husband. "Mom, she's working too. Please try to understand," my husband would say, trying to mediate. But as we continued living together, the relationship between my mother-in-law and me became more strained. With my husband far away, I felt even more isolated. One day, I decided to call my husband to talk about it. "Hello, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. What's on your mind? It's kind of late." "Well, your mom gave me a piece of her mind about house chores, and it's really getting to me." I explained to my husband over the phone. "I'm sorry. Mom's always been a bit sharp-tongued, but maybe she has a point. Still, don't let it get to you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace," he comforted me. Feeling a bit reassured by my husband's words, I tried to focus on our daily routine again. But with my husband away, the pressure from my mother-in-law kept building, and I was getting more and more tired. Every day, I eagerly awaited my husband's return. Living with my mother-in-law without him around was tough. At first, I coped by clinging to reminders of him. But as time went on, her behavior became unbearable, and I felt overwhelmed. She criticized everything I did, from morning till night. Even when I made my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes terrible. Who'd eat this?" Whenever I took a short break, she'd scold me, saying, "How can a woman who can't even handle household chores take a break?" I never felt very confident about housework. With my husband, he just laughed off my mistakes. But with my mother-in-law, I felt like I couldn't make any mistakes. I think she treats me this way because she loves her son so much. She can't accept that he got married and moved away from her. This experience made me determined never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall, my mother-in-law found out about it. When I got home, she was waiting for me at the entrance, furious. "How could you go out for fun when your husband isn't home? What about the household chores?" "I thought I needed a little break," I replied. "A break? In this situation, all this trouble is happening because of your incompetence," she scolded. After that, I hoped for a call from my husband. I thought hearing his voice might make me feel better, but what he told me was far from comforting. I have some bad news. My work in Texas isn't going well. I got into gambling, and now I'm in serious financial trouble. I've accumulated a lot of debt, he confessed. What? Are you serious? Gambling? In debt? This is completely unacceptable. What's going to happen to our future and our daughters? I exclaimed, feeling shocked and worried. "I'm sorry, truly sorry. I feel trapped right now, but believe me, I'll figure it out," my husband apologized. "How? How do you plan to fix this? How much do you owe?" I asked, feeling overwhelmed by the news. I always saw my husband as honest and sincere. He never seemed like the type to gamble. He was always on time for our dates, and when we lived together, he always came straight home from work. He thanked me for every meal I cooked or every load of laundry I did. His sincerity and honesty were what made me fall in love with him. But with him away and my mother-in-law's constant criticism, life felt unbearable. "I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son." My mother-in-law's words pierced through me, sinking my heart deeper into despair. Since my husband started working away, I've been constantly blamed and criticized by my mother-in-law. His recent confession about his debts and gambling only added to my despair. The weight of it all became too much to bear, and one night, I left the house and found myself crying on a park bench. Then, one day, my mother-in-law uncovered a secret from my past. During dinner, she used it against me. "So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place," she sneered. "How did you find out about that?" I asked, feeling shocked and embarrassed. I was telling an acquaintance about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. "Apparently, you weren't even good at that nightclub job," she taunted. In my past, fed up with a mother who never worked and always partied, I left my family home. Struggling for money, I found a job at a nightclub. It was before I married my husband, a secret I believed he didn't know. I was speechless. I never thought my mother-in-law would uncover this about my past, and she kept using it to attack me. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild. I'll tell my son and have you kicked out," she threatened. My despair deepened. It felt like everything I had with my husband, all the efforts I put in, and the future I dreamed of were taken away with her words. My husband's communication became scarce. I worried he started doubting and suspecting me. Alone in my room one night, I reflected on my life, meeting my husband, our marriage, and our current struggles, along with my mother-in-law's constant blame and accusations. I felt like I couldn't continue like this. "I can't take it anymore," I whispered, walking out into the lonely nighttime streets. The silence of the streets echoed my despair. My mother-in-law's words about my past, my secrets, and my present haunted me. Everything became a target for her criticism and blame. I sat on a bench in a park, staring up at the sky. Not a single star was visible. My heart felt just as dark. Suddenly, someone approached. "Mom, why are you here?" My daughter sat next to me, holding my hand. "Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at an IE company and you've been through so much. You're strong." Thank you, but maybe Grandma has a point, I replied. Mom, Grandma's just stuck in the past. In today's world, you should be proud of any job you've done. I'm proud you worked at a nightclub, she reassured me. Really? Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you. My daughter's words touched my heart, and tears welled up in my eyes. Mom, you're working hard in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always be on your side, no matter what Grandma says. Gratitude flooded my heart. With my daughter's support, I felt hopeful that we could overcome any challenges together. Later, in my husband's study, I took a deep breath before diving into a pile of paperwork. I carefully went through each document, trying to uncover his secrets. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Slowly, my husband's financial situation started to make sense. Why did this happen? I discovered several receipts from gambling activities, horse racing, slot machines, casinos. It was heartbreaking to think about how much money he had wasted on these activities. Next, I turned on my husband's computer. The password was his birthday, but reversed. His inbox was overflowing with collection emails from financial institutions and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Additionally, I found a lot of promotional emails from gambling-related websites. I decided to calculate how much my husband had spent on gambling. The total was a staggering $3 million, far more than I had imagined. Seeing that amount, I felt a moment of panic, but there was no time to waste. I started to plan how to secure funds to support our livelihood. I thought about my savings, the money we could get from selling our expensive electronics and luxury items at home, and the money I had saved from my salary. After that, I kept up with my investigation. Every day, I worked hard, reaching out to financial institutions to understand the extent of my husband's debts and obtaining his credit information. A few days later, I devised a plan. I started getting ready to build a life where I didn't have to rely on my husband or mother-in-law, and I also figured out a way to pay off his debts. Using my background in the IT industry, I decided to take on freelance projects. For several days, I built up a portfolio and signed up on a website for freelance jobs. Then, a few days later, I got my first request from a client. This will help a bit with our living expenses, I thought. In between working on projects, I went over our household finances. I canceled unnecessary subscriptions, cut back on unnecessary spending, and found ways to save on groceries. I managed to lower our daily food expenses as much as possible. Also, based on advice from local moms, I participated in a community yard sale. I managed to sell some high-end items and extra electronics we had, making a decent amount of money. A few weeks later, my freelance work was going well, and I felt like my income was becoming steady. By then, I had enough money in my bank account to cover our living expenses. When I got home one day, all of my mother-in-law's things were gone. At the same time, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. "Oh, are you back already? You must have noticed our stuff is gone," she said. "What are you trying to say?" I asked. "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. If you ever think of divorcing him, you won't be able to make it on your own. If you want our new address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Actually, that $3 million is a debt," I said. "Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt," she replied. You may not believe it, but it's true. In his study, there are transaction records from banks and financial institutions, credit card bills, contracts, and more. Plus, on his PC, there are collection emails from financial institutions, messages from friends demanding repayment, and promotional emails from gambling sites. If you don't believe me, why don't you check? I suggested. "You're lying," she exclaimed. "It's the result of his gambling addiction. Horse racing, slot machines, casinos. All in all, it amounts to a whopping $3 million. I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look," I said calmly. "I had no idea. He probably didn't want you to know. But it doesn't change the facts, my mother-in-law admitted. I've been thinking about how to deal with this huge debt, but I guess I don't have to anymore, I responded. There was a moment of silence on the phone as my mother-in-law processed the information. I truly didn't know. I don't know what to say, she finally said. Without another word, I ended the call. From that moment on, I was determined to start a new chapter in my life. I was shocked by my husband and mother-in-law's actions, but I knew I had to move forward for the sake of my daughter and myself. Later, my husband called. "I'm so sorry. Truly, I am," he apologized. His voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it, but my anger didn't fade. "How did it come to this? Our family is breaking apart because of you. I never thought it would get this bad. But when I decided to go overseas with Mom, I couldn't see a future with you and our daughter," he confessed. I was stunned by his words. "You couldn't see. It's because of your recklessness and lack of planning that our family is in this mess," he accused. "I understand that, but it's too late now. I made a promise to Mom." "What promise?" I demanded. "Want to sacrifice our daughter's future and grab a paradise just for ourselves," my husband finally admitted. There was silence for a moment. "Did you truly love our family?" I asked. "I did. But now it's different," he responded, his voice breaking into tears. "Don't hurt us anymore. My daughter and I are going to live on our own from now on. We'll forget about you," I declared firmly. There was no response from him, only the sound of his sobbing from the other end. Calmly, I hung up the phone. The reason my mother-in-law mistook assets for debts was due to a sudden bill of $3 million that arrived at our home. She thought it was a lottery-winning notice and began planning to move overseas, unaware of the misunderstanding. My husband, thinking starting a new life abroad would solve the debt problem, agreed to her proposal, mistaking the bill for a lottery notice. After that conversation, I set aside my anger towards my husband and started looking for a lawyer. I was determined to prepare for a divorce, seeking compensation for emotional distress and child support. A new life was about to begin for me and my daughter, independent from my husband and mother-in-law. I sought advice from a lawyer regarding divorce proceedings, emotional distress compensation, and child support claims. During this time, my daughter and I bonded deeply, and she became my biggest supporter. She fully understood my decision and chose to stay with me. Her words brought me comfort and made all the struggles with my husband and mother-in-law seem worth it. Tears of gratitude filled my eyes. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband faced challenges in their new life overseas. Despite their efforts, they encountered problems due to lack of preparation and financial issues. To make matters worse, they were pickpocketed, losing their remaining funds, and struggled with the language barrier. Ultimately, they were deported for overstaying their visas. Later, I negotiated the terms of the divorce with my husband through our lawyers. The divorce was finalized, and we agreed that he would pay emotional distress compensation and child support in a lump sum. "Thank you. Now I can finally begin a new chapter in my life," I said, feeling relieved. "But all at once? Wouldn't it be better in installments?" I suggested to my husband regarding the lump sum payment. "It has been. I ended up taking on even more debt, borrowing money from some shady loan shark," he admitted. "I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, I don't care," I replied, feeling detached from his struggles. After being evicted from her rental property and losing all her savings to pickpockets, my mother-in-law ended up homeless upon her return to the U.S. My daughter and I embarked on our new life. It wasn't always easy, but being free from my husband and mother-in-law, we could look to the future with hope. I wanted to live happily, working together with my daughter, who had saved me from the depths of despair.